Alright guys, Ubisoft is in full panic mode. They are doing as much damage control as they possibly can due to the fact that Assassin's Creed Shadow has now been delayed. A recent a rumor has come out saying that Skull and Bones cost allegedly as much as $850 million, that they're probably going to lose, to be honest, given the fact that they sold very few copies of that game, and that Star Wars Outlaws has massively underperformed. And so, of course, Yves Guillemot, the CEO of Ubisoft, a man who is very antagonistic towards gamers, towards his main customer base, somebody who has been heavily promoting the DEI agenda, has come out a few days ago and said, our goal is not to push any specific agenda. Now, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out why he's saying this. There is a massive amount of bleeding going on at Ubisoft, and they are just trying to stop that bleeding by getting back some goodwill from the customer base, from gamers, and I think it's a little too late at this point. The reality is people have kind of decided what to do with their money, to close their wallets and to tell Ubisoft, you know what, I'm done giving you my money until you fix some of the crap that you've been doing, like things like Star Wars Outlaws. And to be fair about this game, I don't think this looks like the worst game I've ever seen. I've said to a lot of people, if you enjoy this game, fine, whatever, it's just not for me. I am a lifelong Star Wars fan, and nothing about this game looked interesting to me. Then, of course, we see a lot of the issues with Kves and her face, and it's not that the character model is ugly all the time, it's that there's massive inconsistencies with her face just changing randomly, as well as the other bugs that are interwoven into the game that haven't been fixed, I'm sure. I'm sure there's plenty of bugs that are still out there needing to be patched. And the reality that this game has such an inflated price for a game that just there's not a whole lot of hype for. So again, they have had one disaster after another, which has seen the stock price plummet 66% this year alone, down to just 10.34 euros currently on the stock market. And it doesn't get much better from there, because now we have seen rumors about how Assassin's Creed Shadow's main character, or their dual protagonist male character, Yasuke, was originally supposed to be a Japanese samurai in the game, and due to the BLM riots and George Floyd back in 2020 inspiring the devs on the game, they decided to go with the direction of the black samurai over a traditional Japanese man. So, again, if this is true, that is pretty damning when it comes to the agenda being pushed by, again, Ubisoft and their developers in their content, because you're not just talking about, hey, we thought this character from the get-go, Yasuke, would have been a really cool character for a game. Like, again, there's anime about this guy and all this sort of stuff. And it's like, look, whether we want to discuss the historical reality of whether or not this man was a samurai or his importance to Japan, if you want to make a fictional anime or a game about him and just say, hey, it's fiction, whatever, go for it. It's the fact that they decided to insert him into this game using fan fiction to try to justify him as a historically legendary samurai, and this made a lot of people upset, rightfully so, because, hey, samurai have always been Japanese with the exception of a handful of notable people in history, and Yasuke wasn't one of them. Just got to be honest about it, guys. He was never a samurai. 15 months in Japan is not a long enough time to gain the title of samurai. It didn't happen. It's fiction, okay? So, of course, we've seen them delay this game, and now allegedly it's been delayed to February. People are saying it's going to go beyond that. February is a terrible month for this game to come out because there's some massive competition with other games, other RPGs that are going to be available. So again, whether or not this game is going to do well in next year remains to be seen. And of course, we've seen a lot of people saying, look, the reality is they're not replacing Yasuke. They're not removing him from the game like some rumors are saying. However, this article from Insider Gaming says that there's some issues with the game that they are going to address, such as the historical and cultural concerns, which started before the game's reveal following external playtests and were accelerated further following the game's initial reveal and mass feedback. This includes changing some of Yasuke's story and how he's portrayed in the game, fixing architectural details, and ensuring that the game is historically grounded while fitting into the Assassin's Creed universe. All things that they should have had right the first time, but as we recall, the guy that was the head of, I can't remember if he was the head of Xbox, Charles Benoit, the guy who had said, look, we are making this as historically accurate as we can, and if you want to learn about this time period, play our game. Then a month later, they're saying, oh no, the game's not based on history, it's fiction. Don't take it so seriously. Again, they're talking out of both sides of their mouth. But due to this, we are seeing a lot of distrust with the way that games are being handled by these AAA developers, by these massive studios, and Ghost of Yotei is no exception. Now, again, it is funny that we have so much controversy around two games that are set in Japan, roughly around the same time period. In fact, Ghost of Yotei is set, I believe, in 1603, which is roughly only a few years after Assassin's Creed Shadows, if I have my dates correct. And we have seen a lot of controversy around this game as well. And again, people are trying to discount it as just bigots, racists, phobes, you name it. But the reality is a lot of people, whether it's justified or not, truly loved the character of Jin Sakai. And so they wanted to continue his story. So we saw articles from Game Rant coming out immediately saying Ghost of Yotei may not be exactly Ghost of Tsushima 2, but it doesn't mean Jin is done for, saying that again they might harken back to having him mentioned in the game. Maybe we'll get a spin-off game in the future. And they decided to go with this female character, which has caused a large uproar among a lot of people for a lot of different reasons. And again, I'm going to come out and say, I don't think, based on what I've heard about the first game, again, not a Sony fanboy, don't have a PlayStation, I'm going to play the game eventually on PC, I just don't have a copy of it yet. Based on what I've read about the first game and the characters and the female characters that were in the game, it doesn't seem like people had an issue with female warriors in the games. So this is not a simple issue of, incels and chuds don't like female samurai. I believe the biggest issue is with the voice actress herself. Now, ironically, because I don't really want to get into that, we've already covered that. The game, we have to wait and see what's going to happen with the game as far as the actual messaging of the game itself, whether or not it's, quote, woke or full of DEI or whatever. However, there's now a new rumor from that Park Place from Endymion saying that the Sony executives themselves were not happy with the initial Ghost of Yotei response and that developers were actually blindsided with the new female character. Now, this is really interesting because, again, this is new information. It's a rumor. You have to take it with a grain of salt. But it is very curious if there's anything to this. That we've talked about this before. Wait and see, wait and see. You have no idea if the game's woke. You have no idea if the reason they have a female character and that the actress of the character is this woman, Erika Ishii, who's massively ideologically possessed, massively pro-LGBTQ, hates TERFs and hates anybody who questions their identity. And of course, most of the characters she's played are either bisexual, lesbian, whatever. A lot of these characters in these video games are all in the LGBT alphabet mafia. So there's been a lot of questions around her and whether or not they're going to make her character gay. But it's crazy that even the Sony executives were not happy with the response due to the announcement of Ghost of Yotei featuring this new character Atsu instead of Jin Sakai. So it says YouTuber Endymion shared this information from an alleged insider. He said, apparently Ghost of Yotei blindsided many people that were working at Sony who were not made aware of what Sucker Punch was making. I'm just going to play his little clip right here from his video.
They also had some information on Ghost of Yotei, and they'll be giving me more in the future once they find more out. But apparently Ghost of Yotei blindsided many people that were working at Sony who were not made aware of what Sucker Punch was making. And that people in the mid-levels at Sony were actually confused when Yotei was announced because they were under the impression that Jin Sakai would be getting a sequel, and they are not happy at all when it comes to the response of that game either internally at Sony right now. Like I said, I should hopefully have more on Yotei eventually, but finally my source...
So again, this is very curious. If this is an issue internally, and it's not just, Sony goes, oh, we have some angry gamer chuds that, wanted a boy and they're not going to be able to play as a boy and they don't want to play a girl. That'd be one thing. We were used to hearing that kind of rhetoric. But to hear that there's actually people within Sony who feel like they were duped, who feel like they were blindsided by Sucker Punch, by the studio, that actually adds a little bit more validity to people's concerns about the direction the studio is taking this character. And again, a lot of people are like, look, Sucker Punch is great, Sucker Punch is awesome, we can totally trust them, you don't need to worry about this game going woke. But of course, people have pointed out that when you get to having a lot of developers, newer developers on these studios, like Sucker Punch, they've hired in some new people, obviously, and all of them have like the pronouns in the bio or the flags in the bio. And it's, again, unfortunately at this point we've come to see that it's a pattern of behavior that is predictable when it comes to the way these people are going to conduct themselves either online or in their content that they create. And then we even have the former Sony executive Sean Layden coming out saying if you don't want it, don't buy it. That's concerning. There's a lot of concern around this game, and I think it's justified. And I'm not saying, again, I am not making any definitive prediction that this game is, quote, woke, that it's going to be any more, diverse and inclusive than the first game, that there's anything wrong with Erika Ishii playing this character. This is not there's no intention of hate or harassment towards this game or to people who love the franchise or towards the actress herself. It's the simple fact that we're seeing a lot of things adding up that are definite signs of concern for this game moving forward. And much like we've seen with Ubisoft starting to panic, this could set off a chain reaction within Sony that causes them to maybe pump the brakes a bit and go, maybe this wasn't such a good idea. Maybe there's going to be things within the game itself or within the character of Atsu that we're going to see them change that we might start hearing about a year from now. But again, it remains to be seen where we're going to go with this story, with this game. But I'm just going to leave it right there. Let me know in the comments down below what you make of all this, and I will catch you guys on the next one. All right, and if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching the video. Thank you for being here. I do have 2 channels, Minimal Effort Podcast, as well as my gaming channel. I do have a Twitch and Kick for my gaming channel. We do live streams over there occasionally, maybe once a week. And then if you are in the market for a new PC, make sure to check out Meta PCs. Click the link I have down below. Use code TBO at checkout for a special discount. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.